Great to see you all coming into today's session. Thank you again for joining us. It's great to see so many familiar faces back on Zoom. So I wanted to welcome you all and let you know that today is our very first VMDO Links event. My name's Katie Stewart and I'm the General Manager at the Victorian Music Development Office. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's our new networking event, VMDO Links, which is an event that aims to connect the Victorian music industry to key topics locally and globally around business innovation, new technology, and alternative revenue streams. So we have people joining from all over the country today. I am on the land of the Boonwurrung people, which I'd like to acknowledge. If you're a First Nations person here today, I acknowledge you and all the traditional First Owners of country and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. And I pay my deep respect to elders past, present and emerging. So we're going to jump right into today's session. I'd like to invite you all to turn on your camera if you feel comfortable. It is always fantastic to see people's faces, as we connect through these sessions. Feel free to update your Zoom name with your pronouns if you'd like to, and also feel free to send us a message in the chat to say hello and acknowledge country that you're joining from today. As we go through the presentations, if you have any questions that come to mind, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we're going to have some time for Q&As at the end. And then at the end of today's discussion, please stick around for some small group networking. We're going to have our speakers sticking around too, and moving around breakout rooms, saying hi to you all. So it would be great to have you in on that session towards the end. So I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Reggie, who will be presenting an introduction to music and NFTs. Reggie is a Burmese-born Australian creative entrepreneur with over 15 years experience in music, media, advertising, nightlife and youth culture in China and the broader Asia Pacific region. He is the co-founder of Club Media, a transformative media company that pioneers the entertainment tech landscape and champions Asian creatives in the Asia Pacific region. I'm going to hand it over to Reggie now to start the session.
Thanks, Katie, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. It's great to see so many people interested in NFTs and excited to share some of the learnings that I've had throughout the years, and hopefully it's beneficial to all of you. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, so just give me a second to do that. Cool. Is that working for everyone? Awesome. So yeah, as Katie said, my name's Reggie. I'm a co-founder of Club Media, a company that has offices across the Asia Pacific and predominantly works at the intersection of youth culture, entertainment, and technology. So when it comes to NFTs, I've had a bit of experience with it myself personally. Just a couple of weeks ago, we did a NFT drop for a Chinese rap group called Higher Brothers on the 88 Rising label. And that was done on the Binance platform. And we've also done several other NFT drops with digital artists, virtual fashion. So I had some experience personally with NFTs, and it's something that I'm really excited about. I think it's proving to be a really beneficial new technology and advancement for creators. But to talk about NFTs, I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning a little bit, especially for some of the audience that might be here. This might be the first introduction to NFTs. So to understand NFTs, you kind of need to start with blockchain. And blockchain was a concept that was introduced to me back in 2016. A friend of mine, Ed, passed me a white paper, basically a document that outlined the idea of Bitcoin. And I spent an entire day reading through the whole thing. I got through it, I put it down, and I was like, I have no idea what I just read. It made no sense to me. It was a complete, it was like reading a foreign language. But there were certain concepts in there that I kind of understood. And through just conversation with my friends and with Ed and other people, all of a sudden the picture started becoming clear that actually blockchain is revolutionary. And there's so many instances where we're seeing since 2016 where blockchain is disrupting and infiltrating and improving so many different industries across the world. So talking about blockchain, let me just, to understand it, the easiest way to, and I guess the main sort of takeaway to understand is that it's a decentralized information recording system that's incredibly secure, impossible to change, and is completely transparent. So blockchain itself is like I said, like an infrastructure or a concept that other companies or other businesses use the technology to build their businesses upon. We've seen blockchain adopted a lot with cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., have used blockchain as a way to create a digital economy, essentially. And the reason for that, I think, especially in the early days, is because if you look at the centralized systems of banking and finance, it was really slow, it was really rigid, and you didn't have control of your own wealth. So blockchain sort of came along and offered this new solution that was decentralized. You kind of had a peer-to-peer network that you could send directly to the person that you want to send money to. And it was far faster than any sort of international transfer at the time, which, you know, from my experience, even trying to send money to China can take weeks, if not months sometimes, depending on the sums that you need to send. So blockchain was this innovative sort of technology that sort of came in and provided this new decentralized solution. Now, when we look at the blockchain, there's a couple of tokens that are predominantly traded on the blockchain. So as I mentioned, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're forms of a fungible token. And these tokens can be replaced by one another. So very similar to the Australian dollar or US dollar. If you have $1, you trade it for another dollar, it's the same. You're not increasing or decreasing the value. However, when you look at non-fungible tokens, they're another token that's on the blockchain that provide a uniqueness, and they can't be replaced. So each non-fungible token or NFT is different to the next. So a really good way to explain this is actually like an air ticket. So if you buy an air ticket, you have a seat number that's going to be on a certain plane that's lifting off at a certain time on a certain date, and it has sort of data that's put into that ticket. If you were to switch that ticket with someone else, then you're going to be on another plane, another seat, flying off to somewhere that you probably didn't want to fly off to. So a non-fungible token is similar. It has data that is specific to a certain asset in the case of blockchain. And NFTs are commonly associated with Ethereum because they were the first to sort of create the smart contract, which allows for these NFTs to be created. And Ethereum is like Bitcoin. It's like it can be dealt like a cryptocurrency, but it also provides additional infrastructure for people to sort of build upon their blockchain. And NFTs is just one of the tools of the Ethereum network. However, there's a lot more newer blockchains that are coming out that are also offering and providing the service to create NFTs on their blockchain, including Binance, Cardano, Solana is a really popular one of recent. So what are the benefits of NFTs? So the first thing, as I mentioned, is that they're unique. There's no two NFTs that are the same. So just like plane tickets, there's no two plane tickets that are the same. Because it's built on the blockchain and dealt on the blockchain, it's provably scarce. You can actually tell, because the blockchain is transparent, you can actually see how many of these tokens that were created or minted. And it also proves the authenticity of each of these NFTs. So you can see who the original owner was, as well as subsequent owners through the transaction history. So if I get an NFT, and let's say it's like a digital asset, like a JPEG, I can actually see when it was sold, who it was created by, and then the other people that have maybe purchased it and traded before I bought it, if any. So it's become a really powerful tool to be able to track digital assets through the internet, essentially. So what are these digital assets that can be used as an NFT? Basically, almost any digital file. So when it comes to music, an MP3 could be an NFT, a WAV file. With digital art, you can look at JPEGs and GIFs, movies, MP4s, and something that's becoming very popular is virtual items. So if you look at things like gaming that's becoming really popular on blockchain platforms. You can purchase virtual land, which is represented as an NFT, virtual fashion items, AR items, and even in-game items. Another useful asset class is also as tickets. So they could be used as a physical ticket, as well as film. So recently there's like a sort of NFT release of a film where you kind of buy an NFT and it gives you access to a screening before it goes to the cinemas, and other online events as well. So NFTs can be a sort of ticketing to those online events, even something like, you know, the event that you're on now. So what does this mean for creators? I think the big takeaway is that for the first time, there's a consistent value and ownership system for digital assets, the assets that I've just mentioned. And that's something that hasn't really been offered to creators before. And I think we saw that in spades earlier this year when the sort of NFT boom sort of took off. We saw that digital artists, for pretty much their entire career, their value, their asset was so easy to replicate and share all over the internet that there wasn't a value system in place for them. But now, because of blockchain, and you can kind of authenticate the ownership, all of a sudden the assets become a lot more valuable because you can see who owns it. And this is just like the Mona Lisa, right? So you could say there's only one Mona Lisa, and if you wanted to make copies of that Mona Lisa painting, you could make millions of copies, and everybody can own a copy of the Mona Lisa. But it doesn't mean you own it. It just means you own a copy of it. So similarly, that's what's happened with digital art. And the way that it's affected the creator economy is you could be a digital artist and you could be working for other people's games for most of your life up until now, because that was pretty much the only way you could sort of make money, whether it's games or like a VFX company that's doing a big sort of film or something of that sort. You're sort of working on other people's projects, but all of a sudden, with the advent of blockchain and NFTs, you can have a direct relationship with an audience that might just really appreciate your work. And so all of a sudden, it creates this new economy between the artist and the fan. So we can talk a little bit about how this is going to affect the music industry. So as I just mentioned, as a digital artist that's creating art for their fan base, maybe on Instagram, and now they can sell it as NFTs. Similarly, musicians can do that with their fans as well. And it greatly reduces the amount of middlemen involved between the artist and the fan. So if you're a musician and you're releasing music, usually you have to distribute that on the likes of Spotify or iTunes, etc. This provides another solution or a parallel sort of solution that allows you to engage with your fans in a different way, to distribute your music differently, and it cuts out all the people in between. So I can totally foresee in the future that there's going to be solutions where from your website, you could just put up your MP3 or a single, and you might want to sell 1,000 of them or 500 or however many you like. And fans can just come to your website and purchase that MP3 directly. It also allows for the musician to become more creative with how they engage with their fan base. So as I mentioned, like you could sell your single release. You can still distribute it on Spotify, etc., but you might want to create a collector's item for that single release. And you might have 5 single releases that year. So for each one, you might have a collector's item for each single release. And with blockchain and the metadata that's sort of imprinted into the NFTs, you can, at the end of the year, see who's purchased all 5 of them, and that could unlock a certain reward or a prize. So again, it allows the creators to become more creative with how they engage with their fans. I think a really important thing that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years is the importance of gamification when it comes to engaging with audiences. So it's not just about spraying and praying marketing. It's not just about sort of like getting on every single social media website. I think it's going to be more focused on building a core community and giving that community certain privileges, rewards, incentives to follow your music, to be engaged with you as an artist. And that's something that, I think is going to be really exciting because it's going to create a stronger bond between the fan and the music and the artist. It's also affecting the music industry through royalty collection. So a great example of this is because it's built on NFTs are built on blockchain. Let's say I write a song and I write a song with one of my friends. and we go to sell that song on a marketplace. What we can do is actually write into the code of the NFT, or what's called a smart contract, the distribution of wealth when that transaction is made to a consumer or a fan. So if the song is, let's say, $50, when someone purchases that NFT for $50, I might get $25, and they might get $25 upon transaction almost immediately. And so this again offers a new way for royalties to be collected. And if you have an experience with royalties, they can be very, very slow. It's taking several months, and they're very opaque, and just kind of a little archaic in terms of the collections systems that we have in place. So blockchain is able to, and NFTs are allowed to sort of circumvent a lot of that problem. And we're also seeing it being used by collection agencies. So in Italy, SIAE, which is the largest collection agency in Italy, has worked with Algorand, a blockchain, to mint or create 4 million NFTs for 95,000 creators. So they can organize and imprint it with metadata and have a system in place that's up to date, easy to find, like transparent and immutable. So it's already affecting royalty collection. And I think we're seeing a lot of new companies and businesses using the blockchain and NFTs to provide faster, more transparent solutions for musicians and creators to collect their royalties from sales. Another really interesting use case is ticketing. So as we all know, there's a huge problem around the world with counterfeiting. This can be completely solved with NFTs and the blockchain, because it will show the true ownership and the true original seller of the ticket. So you'll know exactly which one's real and which one's fake. But what's also cool about blockchain or NFT ticketing is that you can put royalties within the NFT. So if you're a promoter and you sell your tickets for $50 and someone purchases that ticket and maybe they sell it on to someone else for, I don't know, say $75, even though they're selling it on for a higher price, you can actually have royalties put in place for the promoter, so they receive something on the secondary transaction. Similarly with music and artists, if you sell a single, you can sort of put royalties into that NFT. So anytime it gets traded in a secondary market, as many times as it happens, you can always collect something from that. So I think that's a really powerful and innovative way of looking at royalties and ticketing. Another thing that I think is something that should be on everybody's radar, if you're in the music industry and interested in NFTs, is the Metaverse. And the Metaverse is a really vague kind of amalgamation of ideas, but essentially it's this new virtual universe and ecosystem and economy and assets that are being built and interacted, and a lot of it's being built on the blockchain. And so what NFTs allows you to do is sort of interact with that metaverse. Again, as I mentioned before, because all of a sudden we have a value system with digital assets, now we can trade them and create a new economy around them. The metaverse is this sort of environment where these digital assets can thrive, can be traded, etc. And so if you're a musician and you want to sort of go into the metaverse, and so metaverse, in terms of the interface, it could be like a video game, for example, and say like popular ones are like Sandbox, Decentraland, Somnium Space. You can actually go in there as like a virtual environment. There's people walking around, and there might be a live event. And so if you want people to see your band perform, you might ticket that with an NFT inside of a virtual game. And I think, again, this sort of interaction between physical and digital is sort of being connected through the blockchain, and we're going to see more and more use cases of this as we move forward. So I'm going to quickly touch upon some music NFT case studies. So the first one I think that's worth mentioning is Blau's Ultraviolet release. So he was the first one that tokenized a full album, and he made $11.7 million US, which is nothing to scoff at all. I do think that there was a lot of hype around NFTs when it went on sale, and it's very hard to sort of replicate those figures. But it showed that there was a market for it. It showed that people were willing to purchase NFTs, and I think it opened the doors for many others to come after on how they can sell their music to their audience. So one of the cool things that Blau did was that he had different tiers, and altogether, I think there was only 33 tokens for these 3 tiers. The final tier, or the highest tier, sold for 3.6 million, and it included an opportunity for the owner of the NFT or the winner of the auction to make a song with Blau and release that song itself as an NFT. So again, it was just a really innovative way to bring that audience and artist connection together. And I think that's something that's resonated really well with fans from all kinds of music styles. Another one that's interesting to touch on is Kings of Leon. They were the first sort of major band that released an NFT album. They also offered a golden ticket to NFT holders that would give them a lifetime front row seat to their shows. And it brought in a lot of mainstream audiences that weren't so familiar with NFTs, because Blau, he was already very connected to the NFT community and blockchain community. So Kings of Leon was kind of one of the first that made it a bit more mainstream. I think Deadmau5 is a really interesting one to discuss, because he has completely taken NFTs and run with it. And he actually created his own collector cards. So his fans could purchase sort of like packets of cards. And in those cards, there's different cards that are more rare than the others. And yeah, people actually loved it. And they started purchasing these packs. And then also there's a marketplace where you can trade these cards. And some of these cards were going for tens of thousands of dollars. And it just showed that people, are also interested in not just the music, but the experience of being connected to their art, to their favorite artists, whether it's Deadmau5 or others. This particular drop on Rares was actually done in conjunction with an Australian brand called Emanate, which I think is really cool. So yeah, and again, it just shows you that there's a lot of flexibility on what you can do with NFTs. One that I'd like to mention is the one that I did about 2 weeks ago. It was for a song called Piquette, and it was done with Saipi and Nono from the High Brothers. We released this song as an exclusive music single and music video release. So it means basically you couldn't access it or see it or listen to it or watch it anywhere, except unless you bought it as an NFT. And it was a way for High Brothers to understand how NFTs worked. And it also gave the audiences a chance to sort of join in on the fun and understand how it works. And we released that on the Binance marketplace. So a few NFT platforms that's probably worth checking out. Get Protocol, one of my favorite in the space. They do ticketing, and they do an incredible job with what they're building. So what they've done is, of course, you have the sort of NFT ticketing, but once you have that ticket and it's in your wallet, so let's say I'm an artist and you've purchased a ticket to my show, and maybe a week later, like you still have that ticket in your wallet, in your crypto wallet. So what I can do is, like, because I know that you've gone to my show, I might give you something for free or a discount. So because you're a ticket holder, you might get 20% off my merch, or you might get a free NFT drop in your wallet just because you came and saw the show. It allows you to engage with audiences that have arrived at your show or come to your show in ways that you couldn't before, because you've kind of collected, and engaged them through the blockchain. You kind of have this sort of data, enough of their data to know that because they've engaged with you can kind of present them with more rewards. I've also got Serenade on the list, and I'm not going to go too much into them because we actually have Serenade on this session. So I'm going to give them the floor after to go into a bit more detail, but they're an eco-friendly NFT marketplace where artists and fans can trade and share music and other digital assets. Royal is actually a new crypto business and marketplace that's been created by Blau, the artist I mentioned earlier, and it allows people to purchase ownership of a song and earn future royalties from it. So it's almost in a way investing in an artist, and in return, you'll be able to get rewarded royalties if they blow up or if the song does well. Catalog is another one that's worth checking out. They allow artists to create NFTs on their own terms, implement their own royalty structures, and sell one-of-one music releases. So that's one that's worth checking out as well. Of course, NFTs aren't all rosy. There's still concerns around the NFT space. I think the most predominant one that you've probably heard of is the environmental footprint. actually it's real. I think there's definitely problems that are involved with the footprint that it leaves, especially in older blockchains like Bitcoin, even Ethereum. They take a lot of energy, they consume a lot of energy. And it's something that we have to be very careful about moving forward and finding solutions to it. Another issue is transaction costs. So when you actually make an NFT or purchase an NFT, you need to, especially on the Ethereum blockchain, you need to use gas fees. And sometimes these gas fees are more expensive than the NFT that you're purchasing for. And that's just because of congestion in the network. And the more people that are buying NFTs or using the blockchain, the higher these sort of transaction costs will become. There's also a lot of complexity still involved with NFTs, just understanding how cryptocurrencies work, adopting it, transacting for the first time. It's not easy. It takes a little bit of learning to understand it. And lastly, it's noise. There's just so much happening right now that it's hard to keep track of, and it's bewildering. And even for someone like me that loves it and follows it every day, there's just, I'm only kind of getting like a 1% of all the things that are happening with NFTs. So some of the solutions for these problems. So layer 2 is, I guess, like a layer that exists on sort of the early blockchains that have come out. And they're providing solutions that are helping to sort of circumvent some of the issues that we're seeing with layer 1 problems. They're faster, they're becoming cheaper, scalable, and most importantly, a lot of these blockchains are carbon negative or even carbon neutral as well. Ethereum itself is looking to upgrade its system so it becomes 99.9% more energy efficient when it changes to a proof of stake system, which is being, I guess, a lot of people are waiting for, and it's being implemented. A lot of new NFT marketplaces are introducing fiat or just sort of, purchasing things with your credit card to make it a lot easier for adoption. And finally, I think there's a lot more community and conversation that's happening at the moment, which allows people to sort of enter the space, understand it better, and just share knowledge. And I think that's really important with NFTs and blockchain and everything else involved with technology moving forward. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep talking about the problems, how they're going to be solved, and working with one another to support one another. And I think that's really, really important in the space. So like any kind of technology, these things take time. By no means is blockchain completely perfect right now, neither are NFTs. But what we're seeing is kind of like the early stage of a transformation. So if you look at video games, we went from a game like Pong to now games on PS5 that look almost photorealistic. Even the mobile phone in 1984, literally a giant brick in your hand. Now we have iPhones and the latest mobile technologies, which can pretty much do anything your computer can do. And of course, things like the web. In 1991, it was just a read-only page. But now, especially with blockchain, we're seeing a new evolution again of how that's going to disrupt the internet space with Web3 technology and create new ways for us to share information, engage with one another, and create content and disperse it. So what does this all mean for musicians? Well, I think for too long, musicians have relinquished a lot of their control of their art to intermediaries, whether they're platforms or middlemen that are involved in the process. I think blockchain may tip the scales back in their favor. And I think NFTs are a way for them to interact with their fans on their own terms and holding the cards in their own hands again. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Reggie. That was such an informative talk. I know that there was so much in that, and luckily we have recorded it and we'll be putting out the session. So for anyone who wants to catch up on that, we'll make it available through VMDO channels in the next day or so. So keep an eye out for that. But I can definitely relate to it being a learning journey. I feel like I'm at the start of that journey myself, but I think what excites me is just getting my head around how blockchain technology is applicable to different uses outside of, just understanding crypto, and understanding how huge NFTs could be for decentralizing the music industry, and just those options that artists have connecting to their fan bases, and engaging with them direct is really exciting. We are also really lucky to have one of the NFT platforms with us here today, and we're going to hear a short presentation from them. We've got Clare Smith with us from Serenade. They're an eco-friendly NFT platform with an Australian founder. So I'm going to hand it over to Clare now to run through a presentation about that platform.
Hi everyone, I'm Clare and I work at Serenade. I head up partnerships there, and I'm very excited that I've been given 10 minutes to share a presentation on what it is that we do and what our platform is about. And really keen to chat afterwards and just hear comments and answer any questions you have. I've also got Nick Jackman on this as well, who is also a colleague of mine and works across our creative agency staff, as well as a big part of the sales and partnerships team. So he'll be also joining everyone in the Zoom rooms, and you can answer any questions specifically to him as well. So I'm just going to do a quick 10-minute presentation for everyone and explain a little bit about Serenade. There you go. All right, so Serenade, we launched only about a month ago, and we're a marketplace for eco-friendly music NFTs. Essentially, you know, if you want to bring it down to the nuts and bolts, we're a creative we're a platform for artists to get really creative and deliver unique digital collectibles to their real fans and establish, importantly, reoccurring revenue streams. I thought I'd get to how that kind of breaks down from a revenue perspective pretty quickly, just so I know there's a lot of people who'd be interested in that. Basically, from every product, an artist takes home 85% of the initial sale. And then there's this wonderful, vibrant secondary market that we hear a lot about. And every reoccurring sale, the artist will get 15% of that sale perpetually. So it's a really exciting kind of revolution in the music industry in terms of being able to track these on sales, and something that I haven't really seen happening in market before. You know, when we started creating this platform, we saw that there are a lot of issues that people were finding in the music industry when it came to NFTs. And so we started to think about it from a music perspective and what people needed from an NFT platform. And so the main things that we tried to, create solutions for were really the idea of keeping things very simple and affordable. So we realized that the average fan probably doesn't really know about NFTs and certainly doesn't have a cryptocurrency wallet set up. So what we've created is a site that feels very simple and like an e-commerce platform where you can actually just upload your credit card or debit card details, and we do all the cryptocurrency conversion in the background. That wallet sits there for you, but you don't have to know a lot about it. I mean, if you want to get engaged, you can, and I'm sure people will be getting engaged over time, but initially it really just feels like you're using a credit and or debit card. And then secondly, we wanted to keep these products kind of affordable. So we understand that like normal fans are used to buying merch products at a reasonable price. And currently, when the big wave of NFTs were out there, Reggie spoke about it before. I mean, these things were going for huge amounts of money, and most fans just can't even, can't afford those. So what we try and do is keep price points low, and we believe that artists should offer a range of products. So from a lower cost point up until potentially higher cost auction items. We don't have gas fees on the site, which can get really expensive when creating a product. And that's because we've kind of created this really simple, efficient technology. So that is really saving about $50 per product in costs, which means that those savings go given to the fan. We produce NFTs at 1/10 of the environmental impact of a tweet. So it's 1/44,000th the carbon footprint of a standard NFT, and that's pretty amazing. I'll talk about how that is in the next slide, but it really is about the way that we sit on a layer 2 blockchain. We're really focusing on a community. We found that people were buying these things, but there was nowhere to really talk about it, to showcase it. And we know that's what people who are music fans want to do. When you buy a great piece of merch, you want to show it off and talk about it. And we realized that there were certain rights issues that artists were coming across, whether you owned your publishing or master. So we've created some solutions around that as well. Here's an example of just how simple the checkout flow is on our site. So it just feels like any e-commerce site. It's really funny, actually. Max, the founder's grandmother, was able to purchase one from one of the releases, and my 7-year-old son. So I feel like that is a testament to how simple this process is. You purchase something, you pick your payment method, and you receive it into your collection. I mentioned the environmental stuff. It really comes down to a proof of stake authentication process as opposed to a proof of work. And we're sitting on a layer 2 blockchain. So, you know, what that actually means is that we're able to be really, really efficient from an energy perspective. And I think that's really important because a lot of artists were worried about creating NFTs because of the backlash from fans. And we've been able to really come out with a strong argument of how these things actually, in the scheme of, you know, what's going on, for instance, a tweet, is only, you know, 1/10 of that. So it's been really great. And any artists who've released on the site were able to go out with that information to support. So essentially, like, the way that we see the platform is we're just an avenue for artists to create really great, beautiful experiences for fans. And it can be really anything. It can be like a video, an image, an audio track, an in real life experience that's bundled with an NFT. You know, if we can upload it, it can become an NFT. And so the types of things we talk to people about are like VIP ticketing and experiences, archival music being released, exclusive artwork. So documentary content, special performances. So I wanted to show some examples of what potentially artists have worked on the site with us to create. So we did a release with Lady Hawk, which is essentially, she created some artwork which were digitally signed, and they were the inspiration of her cover artwork, and then also became the inspiration for the tour artwork. So an example of that is really, it was very simple. It was an animated GIF with a digital signature. And she did 25 each of those, one with a black signature and one with a white signature. We worked closely with the Super Furry Animals, and they created a wonderful one-of-one auction item, which was an artwork, animated artwork, which was inspired from their Rings Around the World 20th anniversary release. And if you look very closely, there's an image of the band in there. This artwork was created by Mark James, who did the original artwork, and was really wonderful. They've got a huge engaged fan base, and it was lovely to see this released. Then we worked with Jungle on their first NFT release. They did quite a range of stuff, and I just chose one to show you. But what I wanted to show you was an example of someone doing a digital release, but bundling it with a sort of physical thing. So you bought the NFT artwork, and then also you got physical merch sent to you and a personalized letter from the band. And they did 5 editions of that. And then Mookie, which is a great Australian emerging artist, decided to do a series of trading cards, which she did 99 each of each trading card. And essentially they're just animated cards talking about her different personality types that she has. We've got some new things coming up, so new singles, releases, full album releases, unreleased demo tapes, documentary footage. As I said, it's really about getting as creative as you can. You know, we're happy to explore anything and ways that we can put them on the platform. So we've got upcoming releases with a few bands, so Jungle, Super Furry Animals, The Game, Hot Chip. We've worked with a few artists, Jungle, Super Furry Animals, and then we're working with artists coming up, The Game, Hot Chip, Digga D, The Kooks, UG, Simba, Sinkhole, Kaiser Chiefs and Ride. My presentation skills, guys, I'm so sorry. And essentially what we're trying to do is, you know, partner with a lot of the different stakeholders within the industry, so ticketing and venues, D2C e-commerce, social commerce sites. So we're working on a release at the moment. We're partnering with a direct-to-consumer site so that we're able to get chart accreditation for one of the releases. So that's a really exciting evolution, and super happy to talk about that later when we're in the breakout rooms. Sorry. Then I wanted to quickly just talk about the industries that we work with a lot of different partners within the industry. We've got a lot of backing from international and local partners. So people like Unified, Machine Management, we work with Beggars, Communion Music, just many IOU, Secret Sounds, Bernard Fanning, even Hugh Jackman's in there. Okay. So we have a creative agency that we work with. Essentially, you know, a lot of people want to do NFTs, but they don't really know how to create them, and we're here to help. We can basically be here as really an advisory, be advisors and help with the kind of creative ideation, the direction and production, and the packaging and promotion direction as well. And then lastly, I wanted to just do a quick walkthrough of the video of the platform. It's a little walkthrough video.
Serenade's homepage shouts music community. Our all-important environmental policy and FAQs are front and centre. You can look at different rows of wonderful content. Click on Explore and search by genre or artist. Each piece of content is associated with a product and can be purchased right from the homepage, or choose to click through to the actual product page where you can find out more and add to cart. And on the left, descriptive information about the digital collectible and its purchase history. Scroll down and click into a product and you end up on the product page where you can click buy now and select a previously used payment method, or just add a new card and check out that way. There is a comment thread below that gives the fan and artist an opportunity to talk about the product. For updates on your favourite artists, sign up and we'll send you notifications. You'll never miss out on the latest releases.
And yeah, that's the presentation. I'm really sorry, that's the worst presentation I've ever done in my life, but I think what I was trying to say. So
no,
yeah.
Not at all. Look, if it makes you feel better, I started a Zoom networking breakfast last year and messed up the audio settings and did the whole intro and nobody could hear me at all. And then I checked that and there were about 100 messages saying, Katie, we can't hear you. You're talking to an empty room. So it happens.
I think the content was there, everyone. So I hope everyone got what I was trying to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
The presentation side of it really failed me.
No, not at all. It was amazing to get an overview of the platform, Claire, and really exciting that, you know, this exists in Australia and the Serenade team's here in Australia as well. And, you know, we're really lucky as well that that we have Reggie at our disposal. And, you know, with that said, we have you know, Claire, Reggie, and also Nick from the Serenade team still in the room. So if anyone wants to jump in with any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Alternatively, you can certainly jump up and pop your hand up and jump up on camera if you like as well. So yeah, don't be shy. Feel free to jump in if you do have any questions. Actually, I have one for you, Reggie, around accessing NFTs without crypto. I mean, Claire was talking about the Serenade platform being really accessible in the sense that you could make purchases, you know, like a regular e-commerce site. Is that common across the various NFT platforms? Are you finding that predominantly you do need to engage with cryptocurrency in order to access NFTs?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's definitely more and more platforms that are offering fiat solutions, so you can transact with your credit cards. Personally, I think people should start educating themselves now, because I just think it's going to be such a big factor of our lives moving forward that it's probably best to start soon and start somewhere. And a lot of these platforms, the adoption and education phase is becoming smoother and easier. It's not as clunky as it was when they first came out several years ago. So for anyone that hasn't purchased an NFT or even kind of familiarize themselves with cryptocurrencies and wallets, etc., I'd say start somewhere, and just slowly learn. And as I said in the presentation, but something that I really kind of want to reinforce is like talk to people that have, and kind of have conversations with people. It's really a great time to be learning this, a great time to be educating ourselves and also one another, because I think it will play a large and significant role in our lives moving forward.
Can I just jump in there to add to that point? I think eventually everyone who engages with NFTs will begin to learn about how all this stuff functions, learn about digital wallets, learn about the value of blockchains and cryptocurrencies and facilitating these sort of artist-fan interactions. One of the sort of great benefits, and I think this is what we've been seeing since we've launched, is we've had a lot of fans come on and purchase NFTs with genuinely no experience before in purchasing NFTs. And the process of purchasing one, having a horse in the race finally, is actually sort of a great individual motivator for that person to go looking around and finding more information. We have a lot of people coming through on our sort of intercom chat after they purchase, saying, hey, okay, I've got an NFT now. What does this mean? Where do I go? What do I do with it? And I think, just really lowering that barrier to entry for fans in the first place is actually just a fantastic way to get people excited about an industry where before they might have been entirely too intimidated to actually start looking into, or start going through the wiki hows on MetaMask and all of those lovely things that I feel like I was doing about 6 months ago and hated every second of it. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you so much, Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to jump in and ask, does that mean that the money that an artist makes on these platforms only exists in cryptocurrency and in the blockchain? Like, Reggie, you mentioned somebody made $1 million. Was it $1 million of cryptocurrency? And then that can only be presumably utilised within this metaverse world that, sorry, I'm very new.
Certainly not on Serenade. On Serenade, we don't pay in cryptocurrency. So it's paid in the normal currency of where the artist is based. There are sites that certainly work just on cryptocurrency, but as I was saying, we're trying to move away from that model and move into a model that kind of works with the fan and artists more. And so on Serenade, that is not what happens. But Reggie, you could probably speak to the platforms that actually are just operating in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, so to answer your question, I think, so when some of like these millions of dollars are being, transacted and sort of moved around the internet, for the most part, it is cryptocurrencies that are being moved around. So I think one thing that happened with the NFT boom that we saw earlier this year, a lot of the money that was being moved around was actually from just crypto-rich crypto investors from 2016, when there was the initial sort of massive crypto boom. They were just sitting on all this ETH, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And because you can't go to the store and pick up some eggs and buy your milk with it, you needed to use it somehow. So all of a sudden they started pumping it into the NFT space. And that's why we saw this massive sort of like revolution and evolution of the NFT spaces, because all these super rich people had all this money and they couldn't use it anywhere. So it went into NFTs, and NFTs became this sort of perfect storm early this year, because it provided this like clout and FOMO that was already attached with the crypto space earlier in like 2016, 17, but it sort of like brought it into the cultural lens of art and digital assets and things. And so that paired with this sort of all this like money that people were sitting on, it just created this like beast, that just sort of like got everybody really pumped up about the possibilities and things. But yeah, like fundamentally, money is being moved around in cryptocurrencies, but cryptocurrencies can be transferred into fiat currency as well. So like, let's not forget, just because it exists and it's a digital currency, you can bring it back into a US dollar or an Australian dollar. And there's, platforms and exchanges that allow for that to happen. And more NFT market spaces like Serenade, I think, thanks Claire for jumping in, are providing solutions to keep it simpler. So you don't have to sort of get your head around cryptocurrency if you just want to use your Commonwealth Bank card. You can still do that. But like I said, I think it's just such a good opportunity to start learning about this space. It is really hairy and complicated, but little by little, if you can kind of grasp some of the basic concepts, you'll get a better understanding, and then you'll understand just how massive and important this whole space is.
Thanks so much, Reggie. We've got another question from Stephen in the chat. He's hoping to hear any more successful examples of emerging artists using NFTs.
I think I can pass that to you guys, yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously sort of Mookie is our main one that we've got here. And I think over the next few months, we'll have the opportunity to see a lot more of them. I think one of the things that is potentially holding emerging artists back at the moment from at least developing these ideas is it really does seem like only the top end of town are getting any money out of this. And that's not true. That's just because, Blau makes $12 million and someone's got to talk about that because that's incredible. I think the actual offer for emerging artists is incredibly exciting, particularly for a fan to get something really early on that, one, not only sort of proves that they were there right at the beginning and get all that social cred for finding them first, but it also allows that artist to benefit in the upside if that artist does become sort of more relevant and more successful. And it also sort of creates these really wonderful advocates in their fans for their artists, because they actually might be able to get some genuine benefits as well from that artist being successful. So I think the incentives are really awesomely aligned there. And I think as the space develops, as sort of the general public has more access to getting engaged with this sort of stuff, the more we'll start to see these emerging acts really starting to have some great success. And of course, with emerging acts, it requires a little bit of time for that emerging act to get a little bit more successful. So it's possible all those case examples are out there now, just waiting to sort of be uncovered.
I actually like to think of emerging being a really great area for emerging artists. Like from a promotional perspective, I think it's a good story and there's innovation coming out in that story. But also the reality is you don't have to have a huge fan base. You have to have an engaged fan base. That's what it's all about. So if you do pretty well in D2C, then I think you're going to do well in this market if you can explain it to your fans and get them to understand what the benefits are. And so, this is what Serenade's all about. We just don't want to be there for the established artists who are making a lot of money. We think there's real opportunities for emerging artists as well.
Thanks for that, Claire. Yeah, it's really interesting to reflect on once you sort of move away from hearing about like the visual artists like people that have made, multi-millions of dollars on NFTs, at the start of the year when all of this news was emerging, and then hear the conversations go into, what it means for fans to sort of, express their fandom, have a token to sort of align themselves with that particular artists, and how it can potentially be linked to in real life perks and benefits. I went to a talk the other week where they were talking about Coachella and they're engaging with NFTs and what that means from a punter perspective, attending a festival, and how that can unlock different experiences within the festival itself, and just be a really clear way to connect people into I suppose a deeper fan experience, whether it be purely digital or whether it reaches out into the rest of the, physical world. We've got another question here from Katrina, who's asking, are all the examples individual artists, or can you see ways of groups of Australian and New Zealand songwriters benefiting as a group, for example, through APRA, which I think is a great question. That and perhaps that's a question more about blockchain technology as well. So feel free to jump in, anyone who wants to answer that.
I mean, I feel like there's opportunities for groups as well as individual artists. And it's really, as I said, I think we're just at the beginning now in terms of creativity and how we can make these NFTs work. And I think, you know, it's really about working out how those revenue splits would work between various artists within a group. And Reggie, you might be able to speak a bit more, but the way that we do it is, you know, 85% gets given to the artist, and then that would need to be split between the different kind of, you know, creators within a campaign. But yeah, certainly, I mean, we're looking to work with partnerships where it's the various artists, and we've been talking a lot around opportunities around that. And I think it's a model to look at going forward. How that looks and how it's shaped at this point in time, I think it's a bit of an evolving beast, but I think there's real opportunity there.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think if you look, just sort of taking a larger step out of just NFTs, but blockchain in general, if we use blockchain with DSPs, even collection agencies, if you're a songwriter or if you're a stakeholder in a song, you could literally get paid upon the click of someone listening to it. So this is already being experimented and utilized by companies like Audius and Emanate. And so what it does is it allows that sort of instant royalty payments to be upon the listen. And I think that's incredibly powerful, knowing that, you know, musicians are some of the only creators in the world that don't get paid until months after they've created their art. And I don't think that's fair, particularly fair for them. There needs to be better solutions. They need to be more, they need to be faster, they need to be more efficient. And I think that we need to find these solutions to help empower them and offer them a fair slice of the pie immediately, not 6 months after the fact or something. And I think blockchain allows you to do that. As Claire mentioned, using smart contracts, we can have those royalty splits upon literally when the song is listened to. And within that smart contract, you could have, you know, all the different splits you need, and through microtransactions, that split can be distributed upon the click. So in a way, like, you know, we need to be moving towards those sort of mechanisms and distribution solutions. Yeah, just to make things fairer for everyone that's involved in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to jump in as well. Like, currently we're working with the different stakeholders, as I said, and talking to publishers and rights holders, etc. There's no industry standard at this point in time for this. I do believe that's something that's going to happen in the future, and we're certainly trying to push towards that. You know, as Reggie was mentioning, the technology's there. It's just about, you know, coming to a consensus about how that's going to work from an industry perspective.
Thanks, Claire. I've got another question here from Yanni. Can you talk a bit more about how a company like Emanate works? Where does the money come from to pay artist royalties every time a song is streamed? That has been distributed to Spotify, et al. Via Animate, for example.
So I'm not exactly sort of privy to how the inner workings works in terms of where the money comes from. Funnily enough, I was speaking with Emanate last week, and they're a really nice bunch of guys. If you like, I can probably send you some information on like where to follow up. Maybe they're a great company to have on the next session of this to sort of explain that in a bit more detail. But like, yeah, I don't think I could sort of justify or kind of give the right information on that sort of inner workings.
No worries. Thanks, Reggie. We are going to stick around for some networking if anybody's interested in staying on the line. But I wanted to thank all of our speakers again. We've got Reggie from Club Media, Claire from Serenade, and also Nick, who jumped in from Serenade. Thank you all so much for joining VMDO Links today and you know, sharing all your wisdom about NFTs and the Serenade platform and what's to come in the area. I wanted to tell you all about our next VMDO event before we go into some further networking. In 2 weeks' time, we are going to be running an event in conjunction with Melbourne International Games Week. The event's called Game Plan, where we'll be taking a look into the opportunities in games for artists and music companies to explore engaging gaming content and experiences. So, think of top level, thinking of those things that we've seen in the media recently about, Travis Scott in Fortnite and, various artists in Roblox and whatnot, and really unpacking some case studies as to how those in-game experiences work. That presentation is going to be brought to us by Music Ally in the UK, who are definitely real experts in all things emerging tech and business trends in the music industry. So I'm going to pop a link in the chat. We just announced this event in the last few hours, so we'd love to see you all there. That's happening on Monday, the 4th of October from 6 till 7:30 p.m. for Melbourne International Games Week.